welcome to HY Tan Law. So if you have been following the news recently, you may notice that the news headline, apart from our general election results, says that there has been a suspected customer data leak from an airline company. So if you're one of the customer of this airline company and your personal data was indeed leaked, what are your rights under the law? Today we are going to decipher some myth in relation to Malaysia data protection law. So if you have come across one of the following scenarios, you may want to stay tuned and find out what are the rights and obligations involved under this data protection law. Scenario 1. If you are the owner of this airline company and there was indeed a data leak, what are your obligations under the law? Scenario 2. If you walk into a building and the security personnel ask for your identity card or your driving license, are you obliged to give this document in order to get access into the building? Or is this security personnel violating any laws by asking for these documents? Scenario 3. Prior to the recent 11/11 sales, have you been waking up every day to tons of promotional marketing emails? So do you have any right to stop this brand from continue to sending you this email? So scenario 4, have you ever been asked to agree to confirm on any privacy policy, to say that I agree to this privacy policy? What is privacy policy? How does it affect you? Is it important? So before I answer all these questions, it is important that you understand the basics of Malaysia data protection law. So in Malaysia, we have this Personal Data Protection Act 2010. In short, we call it PDPA as our data protection law. There are three main points that you have to note about this Malaysian data protection law. Firstly, PDPA protect personal data. It means that all the data that relates directly or indirectly to an individual, such as your name, your phone number, your address, your email address. However, it wouldn't include, the name of a shop, the phone number of a shop, or the address of a shop, because this information does not relate to an individual and hence it is not protected by PDPA. So secondly, PDPA applies to all commercial transactions in Malaysia. So regardless of the type of good and services that you are providing, so long that you are trading in Malaysia and you do collect and process personal data as part of your trade, then you are bound to comply with PDPA. Number 3, PDPA does not restrict or limits the type of personal data that the business can collect or process. So it operates on the principle of consent. What does it mean? It means that all businesses, prior to collecting or processing any personal data, they will have to get the owner's consent to this processing of personal data. So in essence, we are going to tell you what are the rights of a data subject, meaning the owner of a data, personal data, and what are the obligations of a data user, meaning the party that is processing and collecting and using the personal data. If you are a data user in Malaysia, meaning if you are a business operating in Malaysia, regardless of the kind of business that you are operating, so long that you do collect and process personal data in the course of your trade, you are required to comply with the PDPA. Here are the 4 main points that you should take note of. First, do you have consent? Under the PDPA, you are required to obtain consent from the data subject so that you can process and collect their personal data. And before you get consent from this data subject, you should give notice to this data subject as to how you are going to deal with their personal data. This notice is usually known as the privacy policy or the privacy notice. Under the PDPA, there are mandatory contents of this privacy notice and privacy policy. For example, it will include how are you going to collect the personal data, who are you going to share this personal data with, how long are you going to keep this personal data, and what are the rights of a data subject over this personal data collected, etc., etc. So this privacy notice has to be shared to the data subject at the first possible instance before any form of personal data is being collected or being processed. So if you are running an online business, you can put your privacy policy, privacy notice on your website and get your data subject to agree to it before they can proceed with any transaction with you. So if you are running a brick and mortar business, you can also put your privacy policy, privacy notice into your correspondence or documents such as order form, job application form, so that your data subject can have a chance to look at the privacy policy to understand how you process personal data before they give consent to it. So secondly, whether the personal data that you are collecting or processing are necessary and relevant to the transaction with your data subject. So if you are running a car wash services and your customer is making an appointment with you through Google Forms, you should only ask for those information that you require in order for you to provide the car wash services. Let's say in your Google Form, you ask for the name, the telephone number, the car plate number of your customer. It would seem reasonable because you will need this information in order to make appointment, to confirm the appointment, and to provide the services to your customer. However, if you're asking for IC number or passport number of your customer, it may seem irrelevant to your business, your transaction with the data subject, because you do not need this information to provide the car wash service. So unless you have strong justifiable reason as to why you need this information, you should stop collecting this information from your customer or your data subject. Thirdly, whether you are taking any form of security measures to prevent unauthorized disclosure, destruction, or loss of the personal data collected. So there is no specific steps being listed in the PDPA as to how you can comply with the obligation to provide security over this personal data. However, the general concept is that you have to take steps to make sure that these personal data are safeguarded. So let's say if you are the owner of this car wash services business, you should most probably limit the access of this personal data to certain personnel only. For example, maybe your administrative clerks or your customer service department who has direct contact with the customers. Imagine this, if even your office cleaning lady has free and unrestricted access to your customer personal data, it is very highly likely that this personal data can be disclosed, destruct without your proper authorization. Last but not least, you have to respect the rights of the data subject. So what are the rights of data subject? This we would discuss in the next part of this video. But please do stay tuned to the end of this video because we have two other bonus points that you have to take note of as a data user. So welcome to the second part of this video. We are going to talk about the rights of a data subject. So as a data subject, the owner of the personal data, what are your rights? So there are three main points that we would like to highlight here. Firstly, you do have the right to update or to correct your personal data. If you realize that there is an error in the record of your personal data, or if you have updates of your personal data, let's say you have changed your phone number, so you can inform the data user that your personal data has changed, or if there has been an error in your personal data and you would like to update your personal data. So point number 2, you have the right to access to your personal data that you have provided to these data users. So what does it mean? Meaning you can write to these data users and ask them to provide you a copy of all your personal data that has been kept by these data users. So even though there may be some processing fees or procedures that you may have to follow, these rights of access to your personal data is a right that is provided under the PDPA, and all data users will have to comply with this. Last but not least, you do have the right to refuse receiving any promotional or marketing information. So what can you do to stop receiving these promotional and marketing emails or messages? So let's say if you have been receiving emails, promotional emails, you can go to these emails and look for statements which states that if you do not wish to continue receiving this information, please click here to unsubscribe. So you just follow the procedure and inform the sender that you do not want to receive the information anymore. So if at this point of time you have yet to figure out the answers to the questions that were raised during the beginning of this video, do not worry, we are going to provide you with some clarifications. So in the first scenario, where there has been suspected customer data leak from an airline company, so if at this point of time you have yet to figure out the answers to the questions that were raised at the beginning of this video, do not worry, we are going to provide some clarifications. So in the first scenario, where there has been a suspected customer data leak from an airline company, yourself as the customer of this airline company, what are your rights? So under the PDPA, there are actually no express provision that will allow you to claim compensation from the data user, meaning the airline company, for any form of compensation. However, as a data user, meaning the airline company, they are actually obliged to take security measures to protect this customer data. So if it is proven that they have failed to take sufficient security measures to protect this personal data, they may be subject to legal consequences like fine, imprisonment, or both. So in the second scenario, if a security personnel asks for your driving license or your identity card before they allow you access into the building, is the security personnel violating any laws? Are you obliged to provide the documents? In short, the security personnel do have the right of asking for personal data as far as it is necessary and relevant to the purpose of allowing you access into the building. However, at the same time, do note that you also have the choice to choose whether you want to provide this document to the security personnel or not. Please do note that in the event that you choose not to provide this document, you would be most likely refused access into the building. So at this juncture, we would like to highlight an exception under the PDPA. Even if the data user did not directly ask for your consent to collect or to use your personal data, under the circumstances where you have requested for a certain transaction to be done to be completed, these data users actually are entitled to use the personal data that you have provided to them in order to the extent of completing the transaction that you have requested. So applying it to this scenario where the security personnel asks for your IC or driving license in order to allow you access into the building, even though there is no privacy policy provided, if you have provided these documents to the security personnel, they can only use it for the purpose of allowing you into the building and not for any other purpose. Scenario number 3. Do you have the right to stop receiving promotional or marketing information like emails or messages? So as what has been explained earlier, you can reach out to the senders of this information and tell them expressly that you do not wish to receive any more of this information anymore. Please do note that today's video is intended to give you an introduction to PDPA. So especially in relation to data users, there are actually several other principles under the personal data protection and PDPA that you ought to take note of. So in order to ensure that your businesses actually comply with the PDPA, it is really recommendable that you seek proper legal advice on personal data protection. So that's all we have to share for today. If you like what we have shared, please do like, share and subscribe. If you have any comment, any feedback on our video, please do leave us a comment down below. If you have any other legal information that you are interested to know about, please also do leave us a comment below. Till then, bye bye.